So here is going to be some hints for the written communication assignment that you have. The first problem, which is to find the derivative of this using the limit of the difference quotient. First is going to be set up for it. One hint that I've got for you is instead of dividing this whole big nasty thing, you're going to end up with by h, multiplying by 1 over h. So the concept is dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by a half. Then we've got three techniques to do to it. Because it's a fraction, we're going to have to write it as a single fraction. Then, to get rid of the square roots, we're going to have to multiply by the conjugate over the conjugate. And finally, what we're going to have to do is multiply out the numerator, at which point we are going to be able to cancel out everything that does not have an h. And then with everything left, you're going to be able to cancel out the h, which will end up canceling out this division by h right there. So the second piece of it, just to give you an idea, this is what the answer is going to look like in an intermediate step right here. It's pretty long and it's pretty nasty. However, you can see in the numerator here, I've already got x squared canceling out with a minus x squared, 3x canceling out with a minus 3x, and so on. Factor out the h, which is common to the remaining terms. It will cancel out this h and take the limit. And here's another hint for you. This is what the final answer is going to look like right here. It probably won't look like that right when you take the limit, but you'll be able to get it simplified to that point right there. For the second problem, this is really just getting you to be able to find the derivative of the same function but in different ways and get the same answer each way you do it. Part A simply says to multiply out the numerator first. That's the result of it. By the way, this is a similar example. This is not the example that you've got, but this is the steps for a similar example, and you'll be able to follow those same steps. So the first step is to multiply out the numerator, then take and write the single fraction into three fractions. You can do this because there's a monomial in the denominator. From here, you simplify it, and it's easy to do the power rule on that. That's the result of doing the power rule. The second part of it says to do the quotient rule first, followed up by doing the product rule inside the quotient rule. This step here is the quotient rule. It's the derivative of the top times the bottom minus the top times the derivative of the bottom all over the bottom squared. Within that quotient rule, we've got here the product rule. We've got to take the derivative of the product of two things. That is the application of the product rule right there. Going from this step to this step is going to be simply multiplying out and simplifying the numerator, breaking it up into two fractions. Remember, we've already done the derivative, so all we have to do is simplify. We don't have to take the derivative of this. It's already been done. And you see the result we get is the same as the result from the problem above. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to do the product rule for the product of three functions. We take and move that divided by x, and we move it to the numerator, which makes it an x to the negative 1 power. The product rule for three functions is the derivative of the first times the second times the third, plus the first times the derivative of the second times the third, plus the first times the second times the derivative of the third. That's the derivative being taken. We need to simplify it out, which is this step right here. Once you simplify, cancel terms out, you're going to end up with the same derivative that we got for the previous two problems.